E3 just wrapped up. Well, no, it hasn't. It's still going on, but the part that interests us, the general media that isn't at E3, finished. The main conferences from Sony, Microsoft, Electronic Arts was offsite doing their own thing, Nintendo, Ubisoft, now Bethesda's in it too, Konami isn't in it anymore. Remember that press conference from 2010? Man, that was amazing. That was a cringe level that Ubisoft can only aspire to. And with all those conferences wrapped up, what did we learn from this E3? Well, let's start with Electronic Arts. We learned they have nothing. Well, yeah, they did have Titanfall 2, which looks okay. I like Titanfall 1. Had it been cheaper, it would have probably still had a player base now. The new one does have a single player campaign, but they're gonna launch it a week after Battlefield 1, where it will basically die. Now they're gonna tell you that no, they don't overlap the people that play Battlefield and the people that play Titanfall, but they do. The vast majority of them that would have made Titanfall 2 keep going are gonna go to Battlefield, because Battlefield, although it does have kind of a lot of automatic weapons, and it shouldn't, it's a sign that Battlefield is actively trying to become better, more interesting. And to me personally, it's the closest thing I will ever get to a new Crimson Skies game where I can fly a plane and shoot at a Zeppelin. I mean, come on. Microsoft, can't you just make a small partnership with, I believe Hairbrained Schemes got the rights back now, and just re-release Crimson Skies or remake it? You paid $26 billion for LinkedIn. You can afford to pay $1 million to remaster that game. And not even with HD, no, just get it to run on Windows 10 properly on modern graphics cards. But that's besides the point. Back at E3, well, Electronic Arts was kinda crappy at E3 this year, and I mean really crappy. The part that just evoked how little the show they had was the Star Wars bit, where they told you, yeah, we're working on so many Star Wars things, look at this, and they showed nothing. Well, they did show that Amy Hennig is working on a Star Wars game, which is good because Amy Hennig is the best writer in the video games industry. She took Uncharted, a generic cover-based Tomb Raider wannabe, and gave it more character than it deserves. She also wrote the Legacy of Kain games, which, if you haven't played those, just listen to the dialogues or play the cinematics on YouTube because they are amazingly written. But apart from that, well, Electronic Arts had absolutely nothing. It was boring as hell. For them, innovation is to give FIFA a single player mode 23 years after the first one was released. Oh, but they did do a VR Star Wars game. Well, no, not a Star Wars game, a mission. A mission for Battlefront where you have one X-Wing and you fight a battle. Wow, that sure is a lot. Moving on, Bethesda had some good things about it. Firstly, they're making The Elder Scrolls Online suck even less, though it probably does still suck. I haven't played it in about a year since they added the justice system. It still sucked back then, it was still World of Warcraft pretending to be an Elder Scrolls game. And now that they are eliminating the level requirements to access quests in new regions, no, it's still gonna suck. Because why would you even level up anymore if you can tackle any quest at any level? It's not because the game is fun, I've played it, I know it's not fun, it's a boring drag. But still, props for trying. Dishonored 2 looks like it's gonna be a great game. Quake Champions is gonna die in the post-Overwatch massacre. Overwatch is the new World of Warcraft. It will strangle the genre to the point where no one else can get in. It's that big. It's that successful. Everyone will try to copy it and will fail. And because it's Bethesda, it's really funny because they had a game like this, Battlecry, which they had cancelled about a year ago. They could have released it before Overwatch and they could have had a chance. The new Quake one, no chance. It's not Quake. If it has character-specific attributes, it's not Quake. Quake 1 was a physics-based arena shooter. Quake 2 was my first-person shooter played in multiplayer. It was a strange experience back then, and Quake 3 is the epitome of a bare-bones arena shooter. Quake champions will be forgotten very quickly. Fallout is getting more content and seemingly being less Fallout by the day. If Fallout 4 wasn't already as less Fallout as Fallout can be. People complain that Fallout 3 was Oblivion with guns. Well, boy, did you jump the gun with that one. But it's giving you the ability to now build your own vault and experiment on people. Also, Fallout Shelter is getting actual gameplay and it's coming to PC. But the thing I'd like to talk most about in this presentation from Bethesda is Prey Shock 3. No, System Prey. System Shock 3 as envisioned by Arcane Studio as the game formerly known as Prey 2, now currently Prey, with no actual relation to the Prey series, or the Prey game. People are upset about this because it's using the Prey name and it's not Prey. I can understand that to a point. Yeah, it kinda sucks that they axed all the work that Human Head did, though you never saw any of the work that Human Head did. All you saw was a trailer made by Blur, you know, the CGI cinematic studio that does fantastic work. They did part of the Deadpool movie as well. The scene where he jumps on that car and shoots everyone. That was done first in CGI about 2 or 3 years ago, and then it made it into the movie with higher budget. And besides, Prey, when you think about it, went through some amazingly different versions through its time. Prey is what you would call one of those disasters of a game, that gaming equivalent of Jodorowsky's Dune that never was actually fully realized, but parts of it were either in a Dune movie or a Prey game or in various other products. I promise I'm gonna make a show about the old Prey at some point, but what I want to say about this is it's okay. This Prey game is System Shock 3 made by Arcane. They're now completing the set. They've made Arcs, which was an old Demand of World 3 game. That's what it was supposed to be, but they didn't get the rights. They made Dishonored, which is a better Thief game than the new Thief. If I'm not mistaken, Dishonored 2 actually has a role for the original voice actor of Garrett, who wasn't allowed to reprise his role in the new Thief game because they require full motion capture action thingama. People have already forgotten that that game was released. This Prey game will be set on a space station. It will star someone that has had experiments done on them. It's gonna be about spooky creatures, horror, psychological torture. It's gonna be System Shock, as shocking as its systems can be, as envisioned by Arcane and written partially by Chris Avallone. You know, the New Vegas Descent to Undermountain and general person that worked at Black Isle and Obsidian for many years. Moving on, Ubisoft presented probably their best game ever, Star Trek Bridge Crew. It's a VR ripoff of Starship Artemis with Star Trek, but I'm fine with that. It can be amazing. It's honestly one of the best games that Ubisoft has ever shown, because there's very little they can do to lie about it. Very little. Whereas with that Wildlands thing, yeah, everything is scripted, everything's a lie. You're gonna see in a few years that gameplay compared to the actual gameplay to show you just how not that way it is. Watch Dogs 2 just seems to be Watch Dogs with more hipsters. For Honor, the guy that presented For Honor had that sort of Ken Rolston style showmanship that I really like seeing at E3 from time to time, but the game itself is, how shall I put this? I've been playing a lot of Rainbow Six Siege lately, and Ubisoft cannot into multiplayer. I've known they cannot into multiplayer since the Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, since The Crew, since every other server-based, well, their server-based multiplayer game they've made. Now this one's gonna have a single player too. Not sure if it's gonna be that great, considering on the single player melee combat bit we're gonna have Bannerlord soon, so why bother with a lesser game? Unless they're gonna use this one to experiment with new modes of melee fighting for a new Assassin's Creed game that's actually gonna have melee fighting in it, not quick time event bullshit. They also announced a new game called Steep about falling off mountains, which sort of reminds me of Shaun White's Snowboarding, which was an okay game, very fun to play in multiplayer. It actually worked in multiplayer at that time. It was before the current era of Ubisoft multiplayer. It also has a passing resemblance to a game called Snow that's on Steam Early Access. Oh, and they also had dancing, a scene about dancing with a giraffe and a tiger set to Don't Stop Me Now. And I saw on the Eurogamer live blog of this that, oh, Ubisoft never changed. Ubisoft just reminded us that games are meant to be fun. So dancing on stage is now a game. Look forward to running being a game as well. Actually, no. This video you're seeing now is a game. Yeah. Funny enough, they either didn't show Just Dance at the conference or I missed it, which is okay because I was mostly focused on the PC Gamer event. This one actually started before the Ubisoft one and went through it. They had a bit of a, I don't know, scheduling mix-up, but if you did see the Ubisoft one instead, you missed out on Warren Spector's, which is one of the greatest people in the games industry. Like, he's worked on things that are pivotal to the industry, to many game genres, to quality in general. You can find his talk on the web. It was mainly about PCs not being dead and why for a while it seemed like they were. The PC Gaming Conference was not a show. It didn't have glitz and glamour, though it did have someone dressed as a Blood Raven. They showed off a lot of different games. Indie games, Bannerlord, Dawn of War. They showed VR versions of Serious Sam, they showed the VR version of Super Hot, they showed two new AMD video cards that are a bit lower tier than the RX 480, and it may not have had the glitz and glamour that some people in my Facebook group about gaming expected, the same Facebook group that's filled with Ubisoft employees that go all hissy when you tell them that the division is boring. It is. But it was good at what it was supposed to be. A place where you see new games and devs talk about their games. Now, my two predictions for this event didn't pan out. No Half-Life 3, no Left 4 Dead 3, and the people from Star Citizen weren't there, so they're probably gonna announce something at StarCon because they have said that single player is gonna be released this year. So yeah, probably next year. But they did announce at the PC conference a game called Dual Universe, which is sort of like Star Citizen, only it starts with the planets as well. And this is gonna be interesting. If someone told me 10 years ago that there will be a time when the market would be saturated with space games about exploration of all the stars and worlds and complex economical chains and space combat and actually getting out of your ship, I would have told them, man, do you know where I can get X1 because X2 the threat really runs badly on a Pentium 2? The PC Gamer Conference was okay, low-key, not a big show, it was about the games, which is something that E3 frowns upon sometimes, especially the people that go to E3 or that watch it. Lastly, let's talk about the big three, the console manufacturers. Nintendo did its own thing, it showed a Pokemon game and a new Zelda game, no new console. Sony showed game after game after game after game, non-stop games. They've done this 1 year before, at least, and it was a good approach, no talking, just games. One of them was something that looked like a post-apocalyptic biker game. Open world, of course, with crafting probably and stuff like that. I really didn't pay much attention to it. I kept expecting someone to announce Red Dead Redemption 2, which was one of my predictions, and it didn't pan out as well. PlayStation 4K Neo wasn't announced either. They said they weren't gonna announce it about a few days ago, 3 days ago. And they brought out Kojima to show his new game, which stars a naked Norman Reedus. And well, I have no idea what the game's about. I sincerely doubt that Kojima knows at this point what it's about, so it's probably gonna be glorious, stupid and glorious. And lastly, there was Microsoft. I had no expectations from Microsoft because it's Microsoft. Microsoft does not do expectation. Microsoft is the 180 company. Microsoft has no spine, Microsoft has no backbone. Microsoft is the kind of company that has people telling its customers to suck it down and deal with it, and then those people will complain that, oh no, the internet is mean to me because I told them to eat it. And yet this year Microsoft announced something good. Every game on the Xbox One, just about every one of them, will be released on Windows. It's as if they finally remembered that at the time they announced Windows Vista, they were gonna make this common gaming platform with Xbox and PC. It took them 10 years to actually get it to their heads that, hey, you can make money off games and Windows. Oh my god, we can actually not be assholes to the people on PC, and they may actually like us for that and give us money. Now, they will probably use the Universal Windows Platform thing, which is currently still horrible, but it's still a way in. It's still a way for the PC to not be marginalized by the goddamn developer of the biggest operating system, the biggest commercial for sale operating system on the planet. As for the rest, well, they showed off Forza Horizon 2 or 3, which really makes me never want to play The Crew again. I was kind of expecting Ubisoft to announce something about The Crew. I mean, they jabbed the Wild Run expansion in about 5 seconds at last year's E3. This time, not a mention of it. Or about Rainbow Six. No new content for them because, well, they sold well. People are pissed because they work like crap, so they'll ignore it. As for the games that are coming to Xbox One and Windows, I'm happy to see Frank West again in Dead Rising 4, though I'm disappointed to see that he's not his Dead Rising 2 chubby bald version of himself, the fun version of himself, the one I could relate to, but still I'm hoping it's gonna be a good game. It'll surely be better than the Resident Evil 7 they showed at Sony, which for no reason had a demo version, which tried to emulate PT. Well, yeah, they did have a reason, because Capcom has no creativity. And lastly, Microsoft was the only console developer to actually show new consoles. There was the Xbox One S, which is a version of the Xbox that's pretending to be a mobile phone. Now, they've stated officially that it doesn't offer any sort of performance boost compared to the standard Xbox One, but they most surely have tweaked the GPU, because that new console, that Xbox One S, supports HDR displays. You can only do that with HDMI 2 and DisplayPort 1.3 or 1.4. And to support those, you need a GPU that understands what those are. Now, they either tweaked the GPU, the existing one, what was it, a 7750? Or they replaced it with a similarly powered device from the Polaris lineup. And then a couple of minutes later, they totally invalidated that console by announcing the Scorpio. Because honestly, why would you buy an Xbox One S when the Scorpio is just around the corner a year from now? It's gonna have superior hardware. They haven't announced how superior it will be. They said it would be able to do 4K gaming. It won't. And 60 Hz, okay, 60 Hz is kind of vague, it's not 60 frames, but it's gonna be a more powerful device at the end of 2017. Now, if the PlayStation 4K Neo something comes out sooner, and we'll learn that at TGS, they sort of hinted that it may be, well, the rumors hinted that it will be out sometime in early 2017. If it's got better hardware than the Xbone Scorpio, it's gonna be a tough time for Microsoft, but they have future-proofed themselves by actually letting people get their games on Windows. So yeah, that's about it for E3 2016. It's honestly, I'm starting to think why we have these events anymore, because they're not catering to the public. Well, yeah, they did have a public version outside of it. They're just catering to the press, but not really, because everyone can see it. They could get off so much cheaper by making smaller events by themselves and just streaming that, like Nintendo used to do. Well, yeah, they are giving the press and developers in general access to their games, but This started as a trade conference, a place where people of the same craft and the press would go and hobnobs and talk and network, and now it's become this grand show filled with marketing lies and whatever Ubisoft passes off as dialogue. So who won E3? No one. We all lost. We always lose at E3, but at least a few good games were announced. Or at least games that I hope will be good and not total lies. Most of them will probably end up being lies. So, in closing, what was your favorite thing about E3 this year? Post something in the comments. If you enjoyed this show, hit the like button, subscribe, and share it with your friends. Or, if you thought it was horrible, then share it with your enemies and make them suffer. We shall be your weapon of vengeance. But if you liked what you saw, you could, I don't know, maybe donate, because basically YouTube is horrible at revenue, by using the link in the description, or just buy my book. It's a fantasy book about, well, a lot of stuff. I guarantee it won't suck, and if it does suck, you can find me here and complain about it.